Hi, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. Today we're playing Tomb Raider Anniversary on the PlayStation 3. This was part of the Tomb Raider collection on the PlayStation 3. I believe this was an exclusive. This is basically a remake of the first original Tomb Raider that came out on the PlayStation 1, the Sega Saturn, and PC, and all the variants that go with it. Like, when I say PC, I almost feel like I need to say Mac and Linux or whatever, but it also came on the computers in some form or what have you. So this isn't a remaster of the original Tomb Raider. This isn't the original Tomb Raider with better graphics. This is actually a remake where they actually took elements of the first game and combined it with the elements from Tomb Raider Legend, which was basically sort of like a Tomb Raider reboot. Well, it's kind of like a soft reboot in the way that they don't really try to retell the story or anything, but they radically changed the mechanics and everything like that. Crystal Dynamics took on the Tomb Raider games, and I believe Core were the people that made the original 5 Tomb Raider games, which were Tomb Raider, Tomb Raider 2, Tomb Raider 3, Tomb Raider Last Revelations, and Tomb Raider Chronicles. Man, I can't believe I remembered all that. Usually I'm all off in these videos. Of course, I just stuttered now, so I made up for it. So, Tomb Raider Legend came out and basically rejuvenated the Tomb Raider series, because by the time Tomb Raider Chronicles came out, people were kind of sick of Tomb Raider. It wasn't doing anything new. Tomb Raider Revelation was kind of on the right track, where it went back to the whole tomb raiding aspect that was in the original Tomb Raider, somewhat in Tomb Raider 2, but those games started to become more of these clunky action games. You might not know this, but I'm not the hugest original Tomb Raider fan. I do like these Crystal Dynamic Tomb Raiders, and I do like the newer Tomb Raider games that are coming out now that Square Enix puts out. I believe they published this as well. So basically this was a middle ground of old and new Tomb Raider, where you're not like on that grid like in the original Tomb Raider games. There wasn't any real analog control. You were always on a grid, and everything was clunky. Sometimes the puzzles weren't that much. There wasn't a lot of logic sometimes to the puzzles. The Tomb Raider games, the earlier ones, were better than the later ones, although Tomb Raider Revelations was a really nice Tomb Raider game that went back to the original simplicity, although the original is by no means like a walk in the park unless you know the game by heart. But once you get to like Tomb Raider 2 and 3, it just turns into a clusterfuck where it's just all over the place in Tomb Raider Chronicles. But I really played the first Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider Revelations the most. That's the one I can tell you the most about. This will look familiar to you somewhat. This is like a larger version of the first level. I don't remember the game by heart like a lot of you might that are fans of the original series, because I played it casually. This is one of the first PC games. I know that's weird hearing me say the first time I played the original Tomb Raider was on the PC, but it was, because it was one of the few games that I could afford, because I believe I was in middle school. I got a dishwasher washing job shortly after, and then I bought Medal of Honor Allied Assault, which is an amazing game. I can't get it to run on my PC with the discs I have now. Maybe if I download it or whatever. I think my discs are just scratched over the years, and a simple part of data or whatever is messed up on it. But anyway, off topic again. Yeah, I bought that. I couldn't even play it until I got like a new upgraded PC, until I started to learn how to build one myself, and then I could finally play it when it was irrelevant. But anyway, yeah, so this was one of the games I actually could play on my PC. We had a fairly early PC where it had a graphics accelerator on it, but it was very basic. It couldn't do anything that was sprite based or particle based very well. Everything had to be constructed out of polygons. Like if you had like a torch or flames or anything that was particle based, it really couldn't do anything. It was made really for the internet and business applications or whatever, but it was great for the time. I was excited. It was our first PC. I could finally play all these games I was envious about. I could play the real versions of Doom and Duke Nukem and Quake, yada yada yada. But yeah, so the first Tomb Raider was really fun. It was more like Indiana Jones, where you were or the first Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you were actually in a tomb. Like these puzzles feel very similar to the first scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark with all the spikes and shit like that. And Tomb Raider was very much like that. So this takes some of the more convoluted level design, not convoluted, but the larger level design. Like if you play Tomb Raider now, I absolutely love the new Tomb Raider games, but one thing I'll say, they're fairly easy, like the Uncharted games. There's nothing wrong with it, but they're very different than the last two tries at Tomb Raider, which were the original and this remake series, where usually there's like 10 to 15 steps to open up one door or whatever. The shooting's sort of clunky, you know. You have this lock-on targeting system. This one's obviously better because it runs on analog controls. The puzzles are more logical, but it still retains like that huge level design, like where you'll have to do a lot of backtracking and stuff like that. I apologize if I'm stuttering. Like, I'm doing this video fairly late, but I really wanted to do this video. And if the image quality looks bad, this is another issue with PlayStation 3 recording, where I didn't lock the resolution. So when the resolution changed, it added partitions on the side where it had to blow up the screen. And that doesn't always look all that great, because when you blow up compressed video, there's a little bit more artifacting. You probably won't notice it unless you're watching the video in 1080p, but you know, it's there. The game looks a lot better than what this video is going to show, unfortunately. It's a great deal to get this Tomb Raider collection. This isn't a ridiculously long video, but this is one of the 3 games in the Tomb Raider collection, which comes with Tomb Raider Legends, Tomb Raider Anniversary, which is this game, and I'm naming it in the order that they came out, and then Tomb Raider Underworld. Apparently, the PlayStation 3 collection has the best versions of Tomb Raider Anniversary and Legend that you will get on console, because when this collection came out, it came out like a couple of years or so after the Xbox 360 version was out. So this came out after the time that they developed Tomb Raider Underworld. So they kind of had the engine improved, and they used the newest engine on these games for these older titles. So they look a little bit nicer. I mean, it's not going to blow your mind nicer. Like if you have an Xbox 360 and you want to collect these games individually, I mean, you're probably not going to miss out. It probably looks a little bit nicer. As far as Tomb Raider Underworld goes, that's debatable. The PlayStation 3 version runs at a higher resolution and is sharper, ironically enough. That was really strange for PlayStation 3 at the time, because Tomb Raider Underworld was a fairly early PlayStation 3 game, and usually during that time the Xbox 360 ports were superior. But due to the Xbox 360 not having as high as a resolution, it tends to not have as much screen tear, and the frame rate is more consistent. But the frame rate on Tomb Raider Underworld is very playable on the PlayStation 3. You just might notice a hiccup here and there. No big deal. Either way you go is fine. But yeah, I think this is a great compromise to the old and new Tomb Raider games. I really like these games, and I really like the newer ones. Beside the first Tomb Raider and Tomb Raider Revelation, which was essentially Tomb Raider 4, I didn't really get into the PlayStation 1 era Tomb Raider games, and then there was some Tomb Raider on PlayStation 2. What was it called? Like Angel of Darkness? I don't know. I know it did terrible, and it did bad enough where there was two other games planned. It was supposed to be part of this trilogy, and it did so bad that they wouldn't let Core make another Tomb Raider, and they gave it to Crystal Dynamics, which sounds really shitty if you actually finish the PlayStation 2 version and you wanted to know how the story ended, and then they gave it to Crystal Dynamics, who basically did their own thing. I never played the games, and so I don't know what the cliffhanger was or how it left off, but people didn't really like it that much because I guess on PlayStation 2 they were expecting the game to be drastically different and improved and finally get rid of that grid control system, which was very out of date even on the PlayStation 1 by the time Tomb Raider 3 came out. Like, even though it sported analog controls, it was very grid based. Like, you had to position yourself perfectly on a ledge or you wouldn't make it. Like, there was like an invisible graph paper almost on everything that you could just walk on tiles. It was like a tile based walking system. That's the only way I can explain it. You'd have to play it, but this, if you just move the analog stick ever so slightly, she's only going to move ever so slightly, sorry. So this is a great reimagining of the first game, and I can't recommend the collection enough if you're curious about Tomb Raider but you don't want to jump in back to the old ones, because I won't lie, the old ones are really hard to get into, but at least for me, some people are a fan. Like, one of my friends thinks the original Tomb Raiders are the best thing ever. Even though he liked the newer Tomb Raiders, he's very fond, but I mean, those were the type of games that you would have to dedicate hours and hours to, not to find like extra collectible stuff, but just to progress in the game. And I know that's not really a popular thing anymore. It's kind of funny, the things that we looked forward to back in the day. I personally didn't, but other people did. And now these people might play these older games and not really enjoy them like they used to. It's kind of funny, some things don't hold up as well as they used to, but this is a nice compromise. This game originally came out for the PlayStation 2, Wii, Xbox 360, and PC. This was a very late PlayStation 2 game when it came out, even though I believe Tomb Raider Underworld actually came out for PlayStation 2, but I've never seen it before. I'm kind of curious what it looks like. I probably could look it up on YouTube, but I'm much too lazy, or I was much too lazy to look it up before I did this video, even though it's not really relevant because we're covering Tomb Raider Anniversary. I actually had the PlayStation 2 version of Tomb Raider Anniversary, and it's pretty competent. So if you never even upgrade it to the 7th gen and want to play it on PlayStation 2, it works perfectly fine. I'm sure the Wii version works too, although I have a feeling since it was a fairly early Wii game, they'd probably force motion controls on it. But this is a great action platformer game. There's a lot of puzzles in it, so action puzzle platformer. But if you're curious about the older Tomb Raider games but don't want to go back to the PlayStation 1 generation where they were super clunky and convoluted when they were trying to figure out just the right formula, this is a good compromise. And I recommend the collection or trying out Tomb Raider Legend, Tomb Raider Anniversary, or Tomb Raider Underworld. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing all well, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.
If you want to, like,